Hey, everybody. Welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a quick hit podcast to get you through, your lunch break today, I would say. A little bit later, had to finish up a Negro League story I've been working on relative to Willie Mays, actually, and his legacy in Pittsburgh. Don't know when that's going to publish online, so I will abstain from spilling too many of the beans, but it was a fun one to work on nonetheless. I think you'll be surprised to learn some of the hooks that Willie Mays has had into the Negro Leagues community here in Pittsburgh. Obviously, his legacy is vast and resonates with so many black baseball players, coaches, people around the game. Talk to Tarek, Brock, Kevin Young, two just delightful people around the Pirates. Always enjoy that and enjoy getting to write that. So I finished that this morning, and that will be online shortly. Have plenty of sports topics to get into today, or current sports topics, I should say. Pirates are off. My buddy Noah Hiles did an excellent story on free agent acquisitions. I want to weed through that and offer my takes. Joe Starkey has a column on Brandon Aiyuk, the San Francisco 49ers wide receiver, who may or may not make sense for the Steelers. I want to give some opinion on what I think there, and as well as some other Pirates things, some trends I want to get into as we near the weekend in a series with the Tampa Bay Rays. First, want to remind you, though, that we're sponsored by the North Shore Tavern. You don't have to be a baseball fan to love it there. The interior is wall-to-wall Pirates. Their appetizers, entrees, cocktails, and, of course, steak and seafood on a sizzling lava stone. Open every day. The North Shore Tavern across from PNC Park is Pittsburgh's home for Steak on a Stone. And right next door, of course, you will see Mike's Beer Bar. This was a gift from Mike himself. Went over there yesterday after the game and saw Mike Sukic, and he handed me this hat. I asked for the hat, actually. I said I wanted to get one of these hats, and he said, here, take this one. I haven't worn it yet. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. And I love me some hats. I don't wear them enough. I enjoy it. So anyway, let's get into the free agency talk, because that's going to be coming on, or not free agency. I think I said free agency earlier. More trade deadline talk, really. And it's people that Pirates fans may want them to acquire, who makes sense, who does not. I get asked this a lot. A popular position that I think it needs to be maybe tamped down in the worry department. Like, I think we should go into this with realistic expectations of what the Pirates can do, right? Like, they're not going to go get the three biggest pieces on the trade market. Nobody expects that. You're going to have to pick, where do they most need to upgrade? I would argue outfield is a bigger need than first base at this point. Rowdy Tellez coming around has certainly been helpful. If that platoon does stick with him and Connor Joe, or even just let Rowdy go and play Joe in the outfield, I'm not really sure. Connor's been kind of quiet lately, so that's a piece of information you want to get. But anyway, I would go into this with outfield as a greater priority, and I would like to see them get a bullpen arm. I think that you've got Bednar, Holderman, and Chapman. They've been very good on the back end. But if you have guys down, and the way bullpens are nowadays, that's going to happen. They just thin out a little too quickly on the back end. Now, I like the idea of getting Ryan Baraki back. I don't want to move Luis Ortiz from his current role at all. I think it's an interesting delineation, what he is, what his title is. The Pirates are very much into him not having a title, but, call him the bulk guy. Call him the fifth starter. I'm not sure. I know that he needs to keep pitching about every fifth day. And if you have somebody else start the game and hunt a more advantageous matchup, that's great. Anyway, but if you look at the trade deadline stuff and that Noah put together, I would highly recommend this. He went through team by team and looked at targets that make sense, realistic targets, ambitious targets, analysis, etc. One name, and it's the art attached to this story, is Josh Bell. I like Josh Bell a lot personally. I don't know if I see the fit there. Don't know what the cost would be, but again, if that's going to be a non-insignificant move for the Pirates, I'd rather see them do something else. And I don't want them to get Bell's teammate, Jazz Chisholm Jr., who was also listed on there. Now, Luis Robert from the White Sox, sure, if I knew what the cost was, that's more concerning to me. At this point, with what the White Sox can ask for, and you hear that they're asking for, it's more than I'd be willing to pay. I mean, that's in my mind, we're talking about a Tamar Johnson, Bubba Chandler, like the big dogs. And I don't want to see that. I don't think it's that much, that urgent that you'd want to do something like that. But if you work down the list a little bit, Tommy Pham is another one in the White Sox situation that I think could probably be had for less. And that would make sense to me. Another guy I would circle on Noah's list, Jacob Stallings. I don't love their catching situation. and I'm curious to see what they do with it. Yasmani Grandal, okay. One, he's had injury stuff in the past. Two, he's added nothing with the bat. Three, has he made pitchers better? Has he been that sort of defensive comfort blanket or something like that? I would argue that he hasn't been. I mean, there was all this talk about Austin Hedges last year being a good defensive catcher and how much the Pirates value a good defensive catcher, this, that, and the other. He hasn't been that. Grandal, meaning Joey Bart is hurt and not necessarily close to a return. I don't have anything against Jason DeLay and playing him more. Henry Davis still on the concussion injured list. It's kind of TBD at this point, right? Like what do you know that you're going to get out of Henry Davis? I am all in the camp of giving him more playing time, but I don't know what I'm going to get. And I think somebody like Stallings could be had for cheap, and I think that probably warrants a second look, at least in my opinion. Some of the other relievers, though, I think could make sense. Tanner Scott from the Miami Marlins makes sense to me. Maybe a TJ McFarland, a couple of Rays guys that if you're able to get them loose, Jason Adam, Pete Fairbanks. Those are the types that if I'm looking at what the Pirates need to do, like I want a depth outfielder and a depth reliever. That's where they should be looking to improve the team. Now, like J.J. Bleday from the Oakland Athletics, that was one of Noah's ambitious targets. I would love it. I think it's fantastic. 10 home runs, 820 OPS, sign me up all day long. But he's under team control for a long, long time. He's a good young player. He's only 26. Like that ask is going to be high. It's especially going to be high right now, I would think, as the Oakland A's shouldn't be motivated to do anything as we sit here on June 20th. They can let teams bid against themselves and try to extract as much as possible. So I don't need them to go there, but I need to feel a little bit better about the offense that they're getting from the outfield right now. All right, let's transition over to football a little bit. Brandon Aiyuk and Joe posited that this would be the perfect move to cap their offseason. And I mean, I don't disagree. I think it would be a fascinating move. I think the Steelers certainly have a pretty big hole on the other side of George Pickens. They need something to happen there with the departure of Deontay Johnson. I mean, we can all agree that is reality, right? But at the same time, I keep thinking about what Arthur Smith has done in previous stops, how those teams have been built, because I think we are seeing a little bit of a blueprint in terms of the type of people they have, the type of thing they're trying to do up front. You're trying to build from the middle out, right? Like they've improved the offensive line. Okay. You're going to have an effective running game. No, it's going to be a little bit different than it was done maybe in Atlanta, certainly in Tennessee. I mean, there's no Derrick Henry back there, and that's fine. And you generally have one elite wide receiving target, and you're trying to fill in the rest with tight ends or third wide receiver guys who kind of bumped up the depth chart a little bit. And I'd argue that's probably what the Steelers have. And again, I'm not trying to convince you or anybody else that that's the right move. Like if there is a move to improve that position, I would absolutely do it. But I wonder about what it would cost to get Aiyuk, number one. And then what's the next move? Because he wants a contract extension. He wants a top of the market contract extension, likely exceeding $30 million a year. And I mean, as much as you don't want this to be a factor, I think a lot of George Pickens, but can you then pay him? Are you going to have two guys on that pay scale for wide receivers? And where does the ball go? And does that fit with what they've previously done, or not what they've previously done, but what Arthur Smith has previously done in his offense? It doesn't. It doesn't. I don't want Russell Wilson throwing the ball downfield that much. I want select shots to be to Pickens. I want some wide receiver on the other side of the field to take some attention away from him. But I want it to be more high percentage, more ball control, sustained drives, involve Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. I think Pat Freiermuth should have a very big year. But you're telling me I need to allocate $30 million to Brandon Aiyuk or 30 plus million? I don't love that. And especially for a cost and what that would mean for Pickens moving forward. I think there's a target out there, but I think Aiyuk is not him. Again, it would make for great theater. It would make for great copy and all this stuff for those of us covering the team. I just don't know if it's the best football move. All right, this weekend against the Rays, a couple things that I have circled I'm looking for. Nick Gonzalez, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I believe he's 0 for his past 12 with 4 strikeouts in there. Pay attention to this. If you're at the ballpark, you're watching these games. In the past, maybe that has led to Nick's downfall. I think he's gotten a little bit out of the zone, not making as much contact. That's been a problem in the past with Nick, but this version of him has been much more contact oriented. So I'm curious to see if he's able to bounce out of that. And yet another series again for Jack Sawinski that I feel like, need to find some sort of traction here. This is probably nearing, we either got to stop playing you, we got to send you down. I know people watching this are probably telling me that happened long ago, but the Pirates are just a little bit more pragmatic in this stuff, whether you agree or disagree. But I mean, got to see something. You need production out of the outfield, and I think attention is going to start to turn to other areas if and when Henry Davis comes back. That's another thing I'm looking for. In injuries, Martin Perez, very good chance that he pitches this weekend. He is further ahead of the other two guys. I found it interesting that this is probably nothing, but Perez was not the one dumping the water, the Gatorade on Brian Reynolds after yesterday's game. That went to Yasmani Grandal. I don't know what Martin Perez is doing. It also doesn't matter. We knew that he threw live BP, was not out for that long, would not surprise me at all if he pitches this weekend. Big for the Pirates, by the way, to have that sort of depth, and you figure out what to do with Luis Ortiz. You've got Dalton Jeffries, Dennis Santana as possible casualties, which is fine. You're making your team deeper at that point. So anyway, I see that I'm a few minutes over. Apologize. As always, we should call this the first 11 at this point. I always seem to go to 11 minutes. Anyway, we'll be back here tomorrow with a Q&A segment per usual for Friday. Make sure you like and subscribe in the meantime, and I'll talk to you back here then. Thank you for watching, everybody.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.